Folks, we are continuing to see a complete annihilation of household wealth. And unfortunately, I believe that the average person is being misdirected greatly day after day and being done a huge disservice. We've talked in depth about this, but this is getting only more apparent, and you need to stay informed. Folks, with the current trends, the current policies, and the current economic data coming out, I don't want to sound overly bullish, but I believe that the stock market is going to get way, way worse. I never make a video expecting my audience or wanting my audience to agree with every opinion that I state, but I really do hope that my content has people ask the right questions, hear out the data that I do present, and encourages them to have a more well-researched opinion on their own. Let's get right into work. If you want to stay up to date on this, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. And of course, Charlie is a relentless capitalist, and so if you want to get up to 10 free stocks with Moomoo, yes, 10 free stocks with Moomoo for a limited time, when you sign up below using our link and meet certain terms and conditions, make sure to hit that link down in the description. Two things we never pass up: free money and good stock trading apps. Okay, so today while I was shooting this video, you saw the Dow drop another 2.59%, the S&P another 3.54%, the NASDAQ another 4.44%, and the Russell's another 4.47%, more at lows. And cycles are allowed to happen, and you certainly have bad downturns during different periods of stock market history. But there are certain cycles, like the one that we've had the last 2 years, that stands above the rest and will likely have a demise that stands above the rest. We're now at a crucial point where market sell-offs have moved from bad and stubborn corrections to complete and utter grisly bear markets with no signs of stopping. The S&P 500 is now down 23.42% year to date, one of the worst starts of the year in the history of the stock market. The NASDAQ is down 32.30% year to date. Very, very abnormal to start your year with a 32.2% drop in some of the most powerful and profitable companies ever. And there's a lot of people out there, especially outside of the finance space, that believe that this is a unique stock market problem, or at best a unique asset price problem. They don't believe that this has any impact on Main Street or is symbolic of anything that's about to happen to Main Street. This is simply being described as Wall Street and corporations complaining about crunching profit margins and the end of easy money. This is being described as an economic condition that we don't have to worry about. It's just going to be a little bit of pain for Wall Street, but barely going to affect the American consumer. And the first reason that people are misjudging this crisis is because the stock market is forward-looking. The current economy is certainly unhealthy because of inflation, but outside of that, the numbers still look good. Labor markets are tighter than ever. Consumer spending is outpacing the rate of inflation. People are still getting salary increases despite the fact that salaries aren't keeping up with inflation. And inflation always tends to start with a booming economy as money circulates around a lot faster and people spend it very, very quickly. And everybody feels like they're getting richer. So it's super easy for people that don't want you to think a recession is coming to then go and misdirect you to the current hindsight data and convince you that, oh, the future is going to be the same. You're going to feel just as good in the future as you did in the past. But the point is, when money is flowing through the system, people don't realize that that money is going to have to be paid for in the future. You can't just print and print and print and have policies enacted that spur demand without adequate supply, without seeing a huge cluster of problems. So thus you have people in the policymaking space coming out and saying, wait a second, no, the American consumer is super, super strong. It's all super, super healthy. There's nothing to worry about here, which is leaving American people and American businesses in the dark. And it has for the last couple of quarters, but now people are starting to wake up. Here are some specifics about misdirection that we've seen over the last week. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that this misdirection was malicious or that it wasn't, but you can make up your own mind. Yesterday, Jerome Powell said the American consumer was strong and still had hopes for a soft landing. President Biden said this week he's more optimistic about the economy than ever. Our Treasury Secretary said, quote, nothing to suggest the U.S. will have a recession. Nothing to suggest the U.S. will have a recession. Not one data point says, yeah, maybe we might be heading into a recession. 4-decade high inflation, almost 4-decade low consumer sentiment, energy prices continuing to skyrocket, and production going up like a snail. A history of us struggling with these same exact variables, and the Fed about to embark on the most unprecedented monetary policy tightening ever in history by a long shot, and nothing, not one thing points to a recession. This is the same person that said a couple quarters ago that inflation wouldn't be a problem. And now she's saying, don't worry about a recession. Next, she'll say, okay, well, maybe we're in a recession, but don't worry, you're not going to lose your home. And then she'll say, well, maybe you lost your home, but at least our public parks have trees, and you should be thankful that we'll let you sleep under those. The list goes on, and again, misdirection or complete ignorance, I don't know. And realistically, if you saw leaders at the top say, yeah, we're heading into a recession, that would cause a self-fulfilling prophecy where everybody's panicking, right? But still, if you're somebody who's trying to stay informed on these issues and make decisions for your family and your future wealth, you can't just look at surface level comments from politicians or leaders who have consistently been off the ball on this. I ran a poll on Twitter at CoughZipCharlie, and the voting sample size was about 2,500 people, and I asked, who do you feel is most responsible for inflation that we are seeing right now? And 81.7% said the Federal Reserve and government. 10.8% said supply chains, 7.5% said Putin. All of these things are to blame for inflation to some extent, right? But what is terribly ironic here is that the most voted culprit for inflation spends most of their time blaming the other two culprits that have significantly less votes. How many times have you heard from the federal government or the Federal Reserve officials that the problem isn't them, it's either the supply chains or Putin? This is an example of what I would call misdirection. It's like, obviously, if you have supply chains weak and an overall lack of supply when you create tons and tons of demand with pixie dust dollars from a fairy world, obviously the situation is going to get much, much worse. And the supply chain is a huge culprit of that. But who is the one that created the damn fairy pixie dust dollars? Even as of this week, you've seen people at the top of government blaming corporations first and foremost for raising prices amidst crunching profit margins, which is a huge insult to the basic intelligence of anybody that understands supply and demand and basic economic principles. And folks, I never try to give too much political commentary on these videos. I don't really care left or right. I like to look at policies that work and make sense. And quite frankly, what I'm seeing is a lot that doesn't make much sense. I'm just a concerned citizen like you that doesn't like what he's seeing. Sometimes I'll read comments that say, oh, Charlie, Trump, he expanded the national debt greatly during COVID. A lot of the stimulus happened under him. Some other comments say, oh, Charlie, Biden passed a $1.9 trillion stimulus package as the economy was already recovering in March of 2021. That was unnecessary and stoked inflation. Some people say, oh, Jerome Powell, you can blame Trump for that. He is Trump's appointee. Others could say, well, Jerome Powell, Biden re-elected him or reappointed him, so you can blame Biden for that. Some people look at it and say, oh, well, this is a global issue. Everybody's going to have this problem to some extent after the bailing out of the economy that we had to do just a couple years ago. One of the more recent arguments, which I've concurred with a lot more, is that Amber Heard caused all this. Ask yourself the question if her pooping in Johnny's bed did anything to stop these inflationary pressures. I say no. She should be impeached. The point is, inflation 100% has a lot of complex causes on every level. But I don't think it's partisan to say that regardless of what party you align with or whether you align with one at all, we deserve more from our leaders. But you're also seeing a similar misdirection from Wall Street. Not a majority, but a lot of them are still misdirecting. Wall Street wants to keep investor capital invested with them so they can earn their fees. So they've tried to curtail fear amongst investors for most of the last 6 to 12 months by saying, yeah, we see an economic slowdown, but no reason to pull money from our funds. And now as the data has continued coming out and it's been harder to hide, they're now switching to, oh, now it's going to be a shallow recession. At first, it wasn't going to be a recession, and it was just going to be a slight contraction, and now it's going to be a shallow recession. This is what I call curtailing investor expectations. These people have their own opinions. They probably knew a recession was coming quite a while ago, but they had to make decisions that allowed them to keep their clients' money. If they told all their clients at the top of the market that the market was going to crash, people would have pulled things out and they would have made less in terms of percentage under management. You have to curtail your investor expectations to the current trend so people don't feel like you're out of the loop. That's why people bought tech way late in the game. That's why people didn't buy it when nobody else was buying it or before it had recovered in 2020. But at the end of the day, if we are being completely honest, what I love about Wall Street and Wall Street analytics is they use these complex formulas to come up with their projections. And they act like they're super duper smarty. But they're all trying to speculate on really one dude and one variable, Jerome Powell and the pace of inflation and his reaction to that. At least one of those mathematical models aren't going to be able to predict. And I'm the guy that took the square root of Jerome Powell's forehead. And I think more importantly, there's a complete ignorance of Main Street and what Main Street is going through. You get these Wall Street analysts that quite frankly are totally out of touch with the average person and what they're experiencing and quite frankly don't care much. They do start caring when it starts biting their own pockets, but not until then. They virtue signal things like, oh, well, if gasoline prices are going up, maybe the average consumer that doesn't make much money at all and can't afford that, can just make their gasoline at home, dig it up in the backyard and add some baking soda in the kitchen, and all of a sudden you got some gasolina. But the point is, you have Wall Street analysts right now that are basically yelling, oh, you know what? You don't have to panic sell out of our funds. We're going to have a shallow recession. It's going to be a kiddie pool recession, no problemo. And then they're going and yelling in the same breath to their unpaid intern down the hall, sell the hell out of everything. So let's talk about this. Are we actually heading for a recession, or is this all just BS fear-mongering? What is the raw evidence that suggests that we are heading in the wrong direction at 100 miles per hour? From what we've heard from the government, we don't have much to worry about. And from what we've heard from Wall Street, we have something to worry about, but it's not going to be catastrophic. And obviously the only people that have actually been somewhat decent at covering this is the financial media, because they know they get clicks if they say bad things. Especially those moronic YouTubers that sit there in their fancy little suits in their ridiculously high-tax states and their little palm trees in the background. Like, bro, nobody cares about your palm trees, okay? Total tools, am I right? But I ran a poll today where I asked, are we in a recession, or will we be in a recession in the next 12 months? And 91.6% of people said yes. A more scientific poll from YouGov and The Economist asked a similar question and got pretty damn similar results. The vast majority of Americans, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, all different age demographics and ethnicities, people who choose Taco Bell over Del Taco, or people who choose Del Taco over Taco Bell, all of these groups believe that there's a significant chance that we'll be in a recession, or already in a recession. And a Bloomberg economic study now pins the probability of a recession at 71.7% by Q1 of 2024. So the people clearly see a problem here, right? Let's look at some raw data. This is from the University of Michigan. The index of consumer sentiment is lower than it's been at any point in the last decade. What about the last 50 years, the last 5 decades? We are getting to an all-time record. This index measures what? It measures how optimistic consumers feel about their finances and the state of the economy. Every other time we were this low, we were in a recessionary period, about to enter one, or in the case of the Great Recession after 2008, we're struggling to really get out of one. Number 2, consumer expectations. This measures short-term 6-month outlook on the economy and how it affects the average consumer, also at levels that we have only seen at periods of time where we were in a recession or about to enter one, with the exception of the 2012 area, where again the economy was still struggling to get out of the Great Recession. Number 3, the expected change in prices during the next year is on a strong uptrend. American consumers not only feel the pressure, but they feel it's going to get substantially worse in the next year. We now have higher inflation expectations at any point than we've had since the 1970s and the beginning of the 1980s, where we got Paul Volcker and Michael Jackson. When consumers expect prices to continue going up in the future, what happens? Well, they start cutting back on areas that they don't have to spend on. They start making decisions that reduce economic activity as a whole. That predates a recession. And in fact, inflation is correlated inversely directly with consumer sentiment, and that makes sense. The thing that's going to get inflation down is also going to hurt consumer sentiment, because it's going to reduce economic prosperity. Number 4, savings and debt. This one is a scary one. So U.S. personal savings rates are lower than at any point in time during this crisis and during any point in the last 10 years. This is because we've seen insane spending as costs have continued to skyrocket. In fact, spending is up more than it would be even adjusted for inflation. But this is unfortunately drying up at a rapid pace. And when this dries up, and we flip into a recession, that's going to be a whole nother problem. The worst recessions are ones where the American consumer is not resilient to the recession. If you go into a recession with huge savings rates, it's easier to come back from that. If the American consumer is a lot weaker, it's a lot harder and more stubborn to come back from that. And you can't just go and send them more money this time. U.S. non-housing debt and housing debt are at the combined highest they've been in the last 18 years. Debt, along with savings, has been used to bail out the American consumer throughout this crisis, but now they're more and more leveraged than they've ever been before. And as debt costs go up and people get leveraged up to their eyeballs, eventually you just can't take out any more debt and be able to afford it without defaulting completely. And if a swarm of layoffs do come in and it really makes the ability for people to pay back this debt compromised, then all of a sudden you have a whole new problem and a whole nother leg of issues. Number 5, we've started to see a swarm of layoffs. And we've seen earnings guidance from good companies dropping like a rock. Some of the biggest layoffs start in the weaker parts of the economy, the more innovative parts. But also in lending, you have tech, crypto, the real estate industry, and overall lending, of course. We haven't laid anybody off at ZipTrader yet, but if we do, Charlie will be the first to go. CEO confidence is dropping survey after survey. Companies are reporting guidance that suggests slowing down revenue and, of course, slowing down profit margin, a crunching that takes into consideration higher input costs and slower consumer demand. There's only so much you can crunch with that before things start going and getting ugly. Number 5, we've already had a contractionary quarter. It's not like, oh, we're not going to have any contraction. It's all BS. No, we've already had a contractionary quarter, and that was before the Fed did anything. Or anything meaningful, at least. They started doing something, but didn't do much. Number 6, and the biggest reason to think that we're heading for a massive recession is, of course, going back to the Fed. The Fed has to embark on a process to bludgeon prices, many of which it does not control at all, or at least very, very, very indirectly. The Fed has obviously a direct impact on loan pricing, which has a direct impact on the stock market and on the real estate market, car market, and then, of course, on the rate that businesses get for different loans that they need to expand or hire more people or give more products or build more business structure. And the pulling back of cheap leverage tightens things up to an extreme extent and has a cascading effect that ripples throughout the rest of the economy. But when you start talking about needed and essential commodity prices, those are very, very, very indirect. And the Fed will have to bludgeon everything else about 10 times as much to get those to move a penny. Bloomberg ran this really nice data set where they saw the Fed as a surgeon who has a history of killing most of the patients that come in. It makes the point that every time the economy goes to Dr. Fed with the ailment of inflation, the doctor figures out how to cure it, but most of the time via killing the patient. If you notice, nearly every tightening cycle in gray that did not end in a recession was a slow and steady tightening cycle, which was allowed to be slow and steady because inflation didn't force the hand of the Fed. It's my take that if inflation doesn't start plummeting, and I mean plummeting, like tomorrow, then the Fed is going to have to kill the patient. So folks, yes, certainly another bleak video, but there is nothing bleak about the huge opportunity that we are going to be hit with in the next 6 to 12 months. My take is do everything you can to save as much money as you can so that you can deploy it as the opportunities present themselves. And also, of course, make sure that you have enough money saved up to get yourself and your family through this crisis, because it may end up getting a lot worse than people are leading you to believe it will. And if you look at this American savings rate, we want to make sure that the folks watching these videos that are actually aware of what's going on, well, they're saving and they're going to be prepared when things get bad. And the people that are prepared when things get bad are the ones that are prepared to also take opportunity as it presents itself. So folks, anyways, that caps off the video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us below or join us on ZipTrader Circle. If you want 10 free stocks with Moomoo, I'll put a link to Moomoo down below. Certain terms and conditions apply. You can read about them on the website. If you also want to learn how to trade rather violently with our step-by-step lessons, private chat, daily morning briefings, as well as our full price target list, I'll put a link to ZipTrader below. Coupon code CharlieFever. Have a good one, folks, and I'll see you in the next video.